Hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name, of course, is Dr. Julie Two Moon. I wanted to jump in here today and have a little conversation about healing and whether it's actions or mindset or something more. So I find a lot of times that healing, as it's promoted out in the world, is simplified to resolution of symptoms or improvement in how you feel or remission or some kind of change like that, which it is. It encompasses those things, but healing should be something bigger than that. Healing should be the invigoration of ultimately the spark of life in every single cell. Healing should be something that is a commingling of an advancement, an expression, an expansion of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of yourself. And yet, I find so often when we have conversations about healing, it's either that people have taken vast physical actions from kind of this maybe a little bit logical, theoretical model that isn't really considering the body as one whole, but rather as the defective parts are getting attention. Or it's from an entirely spiritual, emotional space where it is thought that, like, if I just am in flow in my spirit and emotions, then my body will be taken care of. And what I find is that both of those lead to ineffective outcomes. So on the one hand, if you're working on the physical and you're taking remedies and supplements, maybe you've changed your diet, maybe you're doing movement, if it's not in accordance with the totality of how your system operates, you're going to create stress. And this is something I see all the time, is that people have no deference for what pushing really hard on one part does to the whole. I see it a lot in anti-aging medicine. I've looked at the various forums for all the stacks of substances that are supposed to make you kind of like superhuman. And when you research those, for example, you find all these horrible side effects and or consequences to taking these substances over the long term, and yet people just continue to do it. And what I find that they're missing is something that I learned back when I was maybe 24, 25. And I had this experience because for me, up until that point, healing was like this biochemical event. Pretty much only. I mean, there was an emotional component, but it was a lot of biochemical. And I had some experiences that taught me that healing is actually when we link with the force that makes us, when we align it physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually all at one time. When we recognize that our organ systems aren't just lumps of tissue that do things, but they're divine structures that have emotions and sensations, and they participate in our body in ways that are far beyond the physical. When we recognize that, feeding ourselves well, not only does it give us the nuts and bolts, of nutrition, the calcium, the magnesium, the B vitamins, those kind of things, but it's an alchemical relationship of, you're ingesting language of plants, you're ingesting language of animals, you're ingesting medicine. And if that medicine aligns with the needs of your cells at the time, then magic happens. And that none of it is an accident. And that's why I say all the time that healing is the expression of divine spark in every single cell, because what happens is that when our actions are not random, they're not like, oh, I'm taking this for this organ and this for that organ, but hey, I'm working on the totality because I know none of it is separate. What happens then is that you literally get life force reemerging in every cell system, and it's equally dispersed. Whereas when we push on just one, we just take adrenal remedies, or I'm just healing my gut, we're in essence saying that that part is outside of the whole. And it actually is by default, it's negating the divine design of our body and saying, oh, it's inconsequential. It has no meaning. It doesn't matter. And this is one of the patterns I see over and over in healing, is that where a lot of people are practicing isolationist medicine, where they're saying it's totally separate. And I can take actions in one sphere and I don't have to worry about the outcome in another. And I find that it's taught us to hold a mindset of healing that is also very reductionistic and very isolationist, in that people have begun to really, although they'll say, I know my body's all connected, but then they'll say, I'm doing this over here for this and this over here for that. And not only is that not going to lead to healing, but what I find is that it creates a deep schism in who we are and how we think about ourselves in relationship to the totality of our life. We literally are saying, I'm separate, I'm separate. And the more that we say this, I'm separate, I'm separate, I'm separate, the more we experience that in every place in our existence. And the more that separateness grows, the more ill we become. And it becomes a big challenge. And I will say this on the other side too, that when people take solely, emotional, spiritual paths and say, I'm certain my body will come along, they're also negating the fact that, you guys, we live in a divine spiritual structure. Our cells are magical. If you ever dive in and consider the intricacies of the biology there, you pretty much very quickly understand that, my gosh, that defies logic and reason. And the fact that we're still learning all the time, from a biochemical perspective, these intricacies, it saddens me when people say, I don't think I have to give as much attention to my physical body because it's just the vehicle. It harkens of this thing where people think of their body, again, as it's just a hunk of flesh. It just gets me from point A to point B. The experience is the one I'm having in my heart and in my mind. And that just, again, is sort of, it's a denying of this amazing divine structure, which is why healing is more than the actions you take. It's the meaning behind the actions. When I work with clients, we work on the fact that, yes, we do need to eat foods to support ourselves. And yes, sometimes we need supplementation too. And yes, we need to take healing actions, but we do it all within the context of our individual nature, the individual patterns we're addressing, and the mindset of expansion and meaning, that it's not transactional. Healing, when done transactionally, like, yep, I checked the box, I did the action, which I hear all the time from women, followed by frustration of, and then nothing happened. And I think part of it is that healing is more than actions. It's actions that have to be based in meaning and a plan that's considering the totality, not just the little parts. And I can tell you, I didn't grow up that way. That wasn't the way doctors taught me. And in fact, in a lot of my medical school training, that's not how it was taught either. I think were it not for Chinese medicine, I wouldn't really have gotten that perspective, because it is only through that lens of medicine that I really saw that the intricacies of connection are bigger. So, if you're struggling in your healing journey and you're thinking, but I'm taking all the right actions, I just want to give you insight that that may be the problem. That perhaps those who are guiding you, or perhaps the sites that you're reading, that it's all about actions and actions without an attached meaning. And I will say that the best healing actions taken without inclusion of exactly what's happening in your body and exactly what your system needs, and then, something bigger, right? What the broader impact is, where it's showing up in your mental, emotional, and spiritual sides. And then bringing that all together into one picture where the actions, every single one of them, is aligned with the vision of igniting life force in every single cell, not just some of them. Maybe that's the problem, that it's been reductionistic. It's been reduced to one problem, like just your thyroid or just your gut, just your adrenals, just your estrogen progesterone balance, or your DHEA balance, or your testosterone balance. And there's no such thing. There's no such existing problem in the world. And perhaps that's part of what's been happening, because I see it happening a lot. And what I can tell you is that when our healing gets bigger, when it goes past reductionist actions, when it's past just swallow this because, when it's about every cell in your body is tired, because that's the way it really happens. Every cell system is tired. You can't have trauma in one cell. You have them in all cells. You can't have injury and inflammation in one cell. It's in all cells. And because of that, a lot of people don't have that concept. They want it to be isolated, and they take isolated actions in response. And it doesn't work, because your cells are intimately connected by your extracellular matrix, just as an example, which all by itself is a force of believing, sort of unbelievable significance. It's water in crystalline form that can transmit messages, and the health of the matrix is the health of the body. And the matrix is synonymous with a lot of the corollaries in Chinese medicine for the deeper organ networks. The whole meaning here being, because I'm getting into the weeds with some things that some of you may not have an association with, healing at its root, the healing that lasts, takes into consideration the whole body, considers every cell divine, considers every biochemical reaction to be language within us, and does not place precedence on one over another, and considers that the restoration of the whole is the restoration of the whole, and that forcing an action is actually also forcing an equal and opposite reaction. And that when we really want to heal, we have to ask ourselves, am I forcing an outcome or am I aligning the totality? And the only way towards full restoration is alignment of the totality, because at that point, not only do you physically shine, but you feel balanced and at ease and in flow, and you can trust and live your life to its absolute best, and meaning becomes just an essential part of that existence. And I wanted to bring that to light because I do see a lot. I'm out there reading blogs. I'm out there, I see what people are promoting. And so many people want it to be, I just need to push on this part or push on that part. And you guys, it's a reductionist method that is going to lead to future problems. And I see it all the time. And I don't want you to get stuck in that. Healing, in all honesty, is a big event. And if you're at the point where you're exhausted and your hormones are out of whack and you're not sleeping and you just don't feel vibrant and vital, it's not one organ system. It's time to consider the whole, and it's time to get nourished and cared for, and it's time to invite that spark of life back into your body and into your life so that you can have your best outcomes. That's basically it. This is what I do with women every day. Our orientation is entirely on restoring the totality of you and having you come alive again, and to not have to suffer in the process, but also to know that you didn't create more harm in doing so. That's where you capture your spark again. And that's where you get to be the most brilliant you. If you want help, cool, reach out. But definitely check in with, have you been modeling that reductionistic model? If I just heal this, it'll all be better. If I just heal that, it'll all be better. I want to free you from that prison, because that's a really long sentence of circling the same topics over and over and over. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's exhausting. So have a beautiful, blessed day, everyone.